Hello, I'm Kimberley Dondo, Digital Content Manager, and welcome to the In Conversation With series, a series where I speak to notable figures in the realm of financial services. Listen as they share their personal journeys, thoughts on the industry, and advice for aspiring advisors. Today, I'm joined by Fotis Chatzimichalakis, and I'm going to let Fotis give an introduction into himself and let everyone know who he is and what he does. So go ahead, Fotis.
Absolutely. Nice to be talking to you today, Kimberley. So I'm Fotis Chatzimichalakis. I have been with Impax for almost 8 years now. Prior to that, I was in academia doing a master's on renewable energy and finance. So joined Impax as an intern in the beginning of 2015, then became a research analyst and have been a co-manager for the specialist strategy and the IEM, Impax Environmental Markets, in the past sort of 16 to 18 months.
Great. So what drew you into working in financial services? What was it that attracted you to it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I said, prior to Impax, I was in academia. My academic background is in engineering. I studied civil engineering, then my master's in electrical engineering, and renewables. And something that often came up at the time is that renewables, great technology, make a lot of sense, but ultimately the question comes at who's going to finance these developments. And keep in mind, we're talking about 2013, 14, so different world than today. So that sort of started the question in my mind of the integration of green investment into the finance world. And Impax came up as an investment house that really specializes in that, even from back then. So I was attracted to the idea of working for Impax, and I reached out to them, and here we are now today.
That's amazing. I like that you went from academia and being an engineer and seeing the need for funding in certain areas like renewable energy. And then you kind of went, you know what, I'm going to do it myself. That's really, not many people would do that, I think. That's amazing.
Indeed. Thank you.
So could you give us an overview on the UK's largest environmental investment trust?
Yes. So Impax Environmental Markets, IEM, is a trust investing in global small and mid-cap companies that are active in environmental markets, essentially focusing on pure play solution providers to environmental problems. And when I say pure play, for a company to be eligible for IEM, it needs to have at least 50% of its revenues coming from these solutions to environmental problems. But if you look in practice across the portfolio, the average exposure is around 85%. So really focusing in the pure play solution providers. In terms of the opportunity sets, the sectors, very diverse. They include new energy, which captures energy efficiency and renewable energy. We have clean and efficient transportation. We have water, sustainable food and agriculture, circular economy, and also what we call smart environment with digital infrastructure and efficient IT opportunities. So really very broad and very global, compelling investment opportunities in there.
Yeah. So what challenges would you say are facing green trusts?
Yes. So I would say something that has been sort of, from our experience, that has been important through the years is to maintain valuation discipline. So we do see quite a lot of, excitement at times for certain parts of our end markets and, really investors getting behind technologies. And sometimes we have seen, these technologies disappointing. So it's important to maintain evaluation discipline and avoid sort of hot thematics that might end up into bubbles. So that is sort of something that, we think we have been doing this for 20 years now. So we have experience following these markets through cycles, through boom and bust cycles. So that's one. Then the second I would say is that, this is a space that generally, we would say enjoys superior growth than the rest of the market. So at the same time, where, one has to be sort of balancing this long-term thesis that only gets stronger with potential short-term uncertainties. And these past 12 months and looking ahead to 2023, potential recession, definitely there is some balancing to be sort of had. So that's something else. And looking beyond just current issues, I would say environmental markets are definitely an evolving opportunity set. So it's important for a green trust to really be sort of monitoring developments, understanding how the opportunity set evolves, and capturing the emerging opportunities. So that would be another sort of consideration. And then finally, I would maybe close with saying, green trusts really we have seen more and more entrants into the market. I think it's important to maintain authenticity and rigor in the investment process, the stock selection process, how you define the opportunity set. So I think that really can make it or break it for an investment trust.
Yeah. So something that we have been covering a lot in the last couple of months has been greenwashing. And I just wanted to find out how you personally tackle greenwashing, within your company.
Yes, absolutely. So what I would say is that the solution to greenwashing goes back to what I said before, having a really authentic process and a lot of sort of rigor behind it and following that process.
Yeah.
And then it comes down to disclosures. So how do we get about this is, first of all, as I said, for a company to be eligible for IAM, it needs to have this 50% exposure to environmental markets. So, very much focusing on the solution providers, and we would not invest in anything below 50%. And then it comes down to sort of being very transparent and clear about what do you invest in. So having very clear disclosures, because maybe one of the challenges is that you call it green investing, sustainable investing, ESG investing, can mean so many different things to different people. Yeah. So I think that maybe is a bit part of the challenge there. And as I said, more disclosure is part of the solution. So more disclosure, both at the level of the fund, the investors. So be very clear about what is in, what is out. Why do you think you can call your fund sort of green or sustainable? Sort of substantiate that thesis. And then, of course, more disclosure at the company side, at the company level. Companies are definitely, we see trends towards more nature-based disclosures, non-financial disclosures, sustainability targets, science-based targets. So we definitely welcome that. We think it just fundamentally helps us identify better companies and maybe avoid the ones that maybe not as good. And we have seen a lot of progress over the years. I think that's fair to say. I mean, look at what's happening in the European Union with the SFDR regulations, Article 8, Article 9 funds. So, definitely a lot of momentum, I would say. And that is part of the solution to greenwashing.
Yeah. And, whether or not we are in a recession or it's coming, we are in times of high inflation and, clients concerned about the cost of living. So what effect do you think all of these things could have on green investments?
Yes, absolutely. So let me just start by saying, that fundamental to the thesis of IAM is, how can we use resources more efficiently, invest in infrastructure for, cleaner and more efficient delivery of basic needs, whether that's food with sustainable food and agriculture, energy with renewables and energy efficiency, just looking to address some of the most pressing problems that we face as a society and as an economy, such as climate change and pollution. So with that background, I would say, the past 1 to 2 years have definitely, we have seen quite a lot of challenging moments for us collectively as a global sort of community, whether that has been COVID, whether that was the energy crisis, the war in Ukraine. So I would say throughout these disruptions, the long-term thesis for IAM has only become stronger because we have seen a lot of emphasis and support and policy support for the solution providers. For example, the war in Ukraine, the energy crisis, everyone is suddenly focusing on security of energy supply, how to move from volatile energy costs to more fixed cost renewable energy. So, there are some secular drivers underpinning some of these solution providers, and that I think is something worth having in mind. At the same time, I would say we do have some more defensive parts in our markets, in our portfolio. I would call out, for example, software and some business models that are more subscription-based, more resilient revenues. I would call out water infrastructure and some utility-like exposure that is sort of more resilient to recessions. Maybe some, I talked before about renewable energy, which is more about project-based, and definitely conscious of the fact that some of the end markets are cyclical, like construction, like automotive, but at the same time, the focus on solutions and the focus on solutions that quite often help the users, for example, cut electricity costs, I think is an important consideration.
Great. Well, and finally, for our audience, I think they would probably be most interested to know, like what advice you could give them in terms of having conversations with their clients about green investments. They might be turned off green investments at the moment. So what advice would you give to our advisors?
Yes. So I would say, what has happened in the past year maybe is that we have seen a big rotation away from growth and quality and towards value that was driven by high inflation, which we're all feeling, and also interest rate rises by central banks. At the same time, the long-term thesis, as I said before, is only becoming stronger. We're seeing more ambitious clean energy targets, more focus on decarbonization. So definitely, I would sort of emphasize on that. I do, of course, understand the short-term uncertainty, but all that has meant, for example, in the past year, is just a big derating of the portfolio, just because quality and growth, which are key styles for the fund, have been out of favor. So I would just maintain focus on strengthening long-term thesis, on being cautious of sort of avoiding overheating valuations that might emerge in parts of the market, and just what I said before, maintaining sort of a focus on how environmental markets as an opportunity develops and capture the opportunities that emerge.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much for speaking with me today, Fotis.
Of course, very, very nice to talk to you, Kimberley.
Thank you for listening to In Conversation With. We do hope that you enjoyed it. Please do keep up to date with all our new releases via Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere else you get your podcasts from. You can also keep up to date with all our new content published on the Money Marketing website, as well as our print edition Money Marketing magazine. So make sure to subscribe. Follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. See you next time.